Hey everybody, CerebralTackle back with you again today. This is going to be episode 2 of What's in the Bag. It's our new little feature here on the channel where my wife, Mrs. CT, gets involved. She puts some topics or some baits in a hat. I draw one and then I'll just kind of scatter shoot on what that topic or bait is. Hopefully teach you a little bit about it and hopefully something you didn't know. Anyway, let's get right to it. Let's see what she's got in store for today. Alrighty guys, let's see what she has in store here. Is that one? It's one. Let's see what we've got today. Zoom Horney Toads. Good old bass bait. And one of my personal favorites. We're going to dig them out. I'm going to show you a couple different rigging methods. Let's get to it. Alrighty folks, this is one of my all-time summer favorite topwaters. And I've got a few that I like. You guys have heard me talk about the Jackal Pompadour. But for good old frog bait, and I'm not too big on hollow belly frogs, give me the good old Zoom Horney Toad any day. Now this particular color here is going to be the watermelon pearl. And I like to add a little chartreuse spiket there to the ends of the tails. And let me tell you, chartreuse spiket on this watermelon pearl lights up like a freaking neon sign. Another one of my favorites here, one I already have rigged, is kind of a green pumpkin chartreuse, or kind of a bullfrog color, I think is what they call it. Love that one as well. Now, it's a wonderful, wonderful bait as long as you can keep it keeled in the water. It will try to spin on you now and then, but I've got a couple of ways that I like to hook it that I want to show you and kind of go over with you, so hopefully it'll give you a little bit more success. First, I like to use the good old-fashioned Zoom Horney Toad hook. They come in, I want to say 4 and 5/0, and I think I'm kind of partial to the 4/0. That's what this one is. And then I texpose it. I bring it up between the legs here and texpose it right here in the back. Now, what you'll find out though, if I can get up here where y'all can see a little bit better there you go. What you'll find out is that if you rig it and then just bring it up between the legs, it's too tight of an area there. So what I'll do is I'll take a knife, or if I need to, just my thumbnails, and I'll push it right here between the legs and just kind of lightly tear it gently right between the legs, and not by much. You don't want to make too much of an indentation, but right straight up the middle between those two legs there, just kind of split it. Now what that does, right there, see, I didn't make much of a gap. What that does is that allows, when you put that horny toad hook in there texposed, to come right between those legs, and then you'll take and you'll just pull the hook up on, texposing it. It'll sit right there in the water, kind of give you that little bit of a bowed up action. It'll allow it to sit there and give a good belly wobble coming across the surface, just by giving it that slight bit of tear there, and then just rigging it straight into the body. It's perfect. Love that. Now there's another little way of hooking these things that you probably haven't heard of. There's a certain person out there that showed me this technique. I did not come up with it myself. And if he sees this, he might try to kill me. But guess what? It's payment. If you guys might have heard me talking over on Money Bass's channel about one time how I snaked one of my spots that I gave him and then actually put it into a fishing atlas for the whole world to see. He got paid for the information and got credit for it, and then everybody was on top of our spot. It's this guy. He gave me this trick. So if you see me out there, dude, you know who you are. Ha ha. Payments of you know what. Anyway, what you do, you take a Zoom Horney Toad and then you take a hook you might not expect. A good wide gap wacky hook. And what you want to do is come up and just nose hook this bad boy. Straight into the middle is the key. Straight between the dadgum eyes right there on the nose. Now what this will do is it will allow the horny toad to give a bit more kind of a bounce back and forth and crawl over cover a little. Well, I mean, I don't want to say better. It will allow it to deflect off of things better. It will still crawl through cover just the same. But also, it will allow a little bit of that weight to sit a little further down the water column not water column, but off the surface, giving a bit more kick to the tail there. Sorry, I'm flubbing my words because I'm excited. But what it'll do, it'll cause those dadgum legs to kick, and it will allow for a lot better hook set. Because if this fish comes up and really engulfs this thing, you have the nice exposed hook. You don't have to worry about the penetration and coming up either through the meat of the body or through the legs with that 4 or 5/0 horny toad hook that I showed you. It's just a really neat, different presentation, different way to hook and throw these horny toads. Now, if you like a slightly faster retrieve, you can get a small weighted hook that's kind of more of a wide gap swim bait hook that comes pre-weighted here on the bend of the hook. You can do that too. I prefer to throw them weightless. They are a dense enough bait that if you turn down your centrifugal force brake there on your reel, you can get a pretty good cast out of it. I mean, on my old Revo STX, I've thrown these things for 1.5 miles. So they really are bulky enough that you don't need the weight. But if you want to and you want to rip it across stuff, you can do that too. But I prefer to go old natural here, just weightless, throw it out there and get the job done. And like I said, you can use one of those horny toad hooks, or you can use like a Gamakatsu G-Wacky or something along those lines. Is a great hook as well. You'll notice how the hook point comes up in line with the eye. That way when they come up and they gulf it in, you got a little bit of a weed guard there. It'll come right down, pin them right in the mouth, and you've got them this way too. Just a different, unique way of rigging it that you might not have seen. So now we're going to get to the question and answers part. So let's do that. Alrighty folks, for this part of the program, we're going to turn over to the wife. She's going to ask me some questions that she thinks you guys might want to know, or that she wants to know, and we're just going to riff on those for a little while. What you got?
All right, so the first one I'm going to ask is, you know I'm a very big crappie fisherman, so I'm learning about bass fishing. Tell me how to fish it. Like, what would I do? How do I reel it in? What do I need to do?
Gotcha. A lot of you knowledgeable anglers that know about the horny toad are familiar with it. Obviously, it's not going to apply to you, but if you're fishing it for the first time, what you want to do is you just, like any bait that is mimicking a live piece of prey, whether it's a minnow, a shad, a bluegill, a crawfish, a frog, work it like you see those natural pieces of prey move in the wild. So with a frog, you want to do some slow, kind of steady retrieves, some erratic retrieves, maybe if you have some structure around, that kind of thing. Just sit there and work it like a frog. A nice little topwater bait coming across the surface. Granted, actual frogs will pause a lot more than you can with this thing. If you pause it, it'll sink. However, if you pause it, kill it, let it fall a little bit, then pull it back up to the surface, it'll create this wonderful, beautiful V under the water, almost like a snake does if it's right underneath the surface, and that gives a killer look to it as well. So what's next?
When's the best time of day to fish it?
Best time of day, early and late. First thing in the morning, last part of the day, obviously. It's a topwater. That's routine for a lot of topwaters, unless you have a lot of cloud cover or a lot of fog on the water. If you're in the spring or very early summer months or fall months where you have some good steam rolling across the water, throw it then. Anything that gives less visibility to your current conditions. Like I said, that can be cloud cover. The longer you have cloud cover throughout a day, the better the topwater bite in general is going to be. Same thing goes with a topwater frog like the horny toad.
So would it be a good bait to fish if there was like a light drizzle, a light rain in the summer?
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you something. Oh my gosh, when it comes to a light rain, I have a hard time putting the freaking horny toad down in the summer. That's when your frogs are going to come out. They're going to be more active. And I'm going to tell you something. I cannot tell you how many 100 fish days on a horny toad where I've had to stop fishing, go back into town, buy several more bags of horny toads to go back out in the water and pick up right where I left off because there was a nice light rain on the water. So abso-freaking-lutely money in the rain.
Okay. What kind of structure am I going to fish it around?
Anywhere there might be a frog, you're going to bank beat with it. You're going to throw it around like brush. The good thing with it being weedless the way it is, if you come across a little log or something, you can swim it up slowly to the log, crawl it up on top, pause it there for a couple minutes, get a little creative with it. That way, in case there's anything riding behind it watching it, it's going to wait for it to come off that log, right? Then slowly drop it off that log and be holding on. But you do that, you're liable to make something blow up on it. Across lily pads, pause it across lily pads, hydrilla mats, Great American pondweed, duckweed. Oh my gosh, it excels in duckweed. Nothing like a big V that you'll cause swimming this thing across duckweed. I can't tell you how many times on one little place that I used to fish, a little private lake, where I could literally tell for like a week exactly where I'd fished for all the lines of clear duckweed for all the casts I'd made with this one bait.
All right. The next thing is, what kind of gear would I throw it
on? A lot of people like braid. Being the fact it's a topwater, you can throw braid. Nothing wrong with braid. I tend to go away. One of the few things I go away from fluorocarbon on is a topwater, because the fluorocarbon will absorb water and drag your bait underneath the surface more. So what I throw is actually one of the few times I throw a hybrid line. In this case, Yozuri. The Yozuri hybrid is a fluorocarbon coated monofilament. So you would think you wouldn't get as much stretch, but you still get some good stretch. But I like the fact that it's uniform in its stretching, and that it's very, very, very tough line. So I can make good long casts. I can battle with very heavy cover, and it's still relatively not invisible, but has a reduced visibility profile to where I can still kind of fish it wherever I want to. And I would go like 12 to 17 pound, the same kind of rod that you would like throw maybe a heavier spinnerbait on. You don't want a full medium action, but you want something stout that has a soft tip. The reason why is I like to make sure that the fish, when it hits it, that I don't yank it from him with too stiff of a tip on my rod. I want that fish to load up, just sliding that hook into its mouth. So that's a very good question there. And I also used, like I said, the Revo STX is one of my favorites, one of the old school ones. I mean, it's a 7.0 reel. It was that first speedy 7.0 Revo that came out. I love throwing that reel because that way I can sit there and reel it nice and slow if I need to. If I need to pick it up, I can as well.
All right, I think that's all my questions, but do you have a couple of funny stories about fishing horny toads?
Yes. If you guys will bear with me, I do got a couple of funny stories. One time she and I were fishing a little lake that we love. It was actually raining. Got some lightning across the water, and like an idiot, I'm still out there fishing, and I'm throwing one of these horny toads. And I started seeing snakes come up and pursue it. I'm wanting to catch a fish because I just had a ton of luck on the horny toads as of late. So I kept on fishing it. And sure as heck, one of these snakes came up behind it, grabbed it, got hooked. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I hate snakes. I'm of the mind that the only good snake is a dead snake. So what I had to do was try to get it up on the area of the bank we were fishing and try to get it unhooked. Well, we were kind of on this dock, right? And she was worried about it getting off and coming after her. Not me, after her. So I dipped my rod tip a little bit too low, trying to figure out how I was going to cast this thing and cut the line or what the heck I was going to do. When I dipped it too low, its tail went through a couple of slits on the dock, and it swelled up that tail and got itself locked there. So now here I am with my rod at arm's length, straight up in the air, with this snake stretched up, and I can't get it off the hook. she isn't going to be any help getting it off the hook. And she goes, I have an idea. Here, hold. Just wait a second. And so I'm like, okay. I'm thinking, what does she have up her sleeve? So she has me hold this snake stiff up in the air. What the hell does she do? She runs around me, runs to the car, locks her ass in it, like out of that movie from the 80s about the killer bees, and they lock the car in the Alamo Dome and turn down the temperature to freezing, and they kill all the bees. I guess she thought hauling butt and getting in the car and locking the freaking doors was going to keep her safe. Screw me. So anyway, that's story number one, and I'll never let her live that down.
I shouldn't have asked that because I forgot about that when I was thinking about the other one.
Evil. See? Yeah, see what you get. See what you get. Yeah, now the other story was frog on frog violence. We were fishing another like little private lake, and there was a beautiful like little patch of hydrilla to get to and a couple of pads, but I had to throw kind of through the corner of this tree that was overhanging the water, right? When I would throw it through, it would drape over one little kind of weak, kind of little twig arm, right? Nothing too powerful. Like that if I caught a fish, it would bend enough down where I could, pop the line off the limb. So I keep throwing it over this one limb there, dragging it by, in the same spot I keep getting hit, just boom, boom. But it's not getting the bait in its mouth. Keep trying. Finally, I'm like, you know what? When I reel it up to underneath this twig again, I'm going to lift it just above the water and pause it and kind of dangle it there to see if the fish will come up out of the water and grab it. Sure as heck, I'm doing it. Twitching it. Boom. Here comes it. Gets hooked all right. A 4-pound, 5-pound bullfrog. Big old bullfrog. Comes up, grabs that thing, pulls it off the branch. Now I'm fighting in this dadgum frog. Frog on frog violence. I don't know whether he thought it was just a big bug hanging across the water, or maybe he thought the horny toad looked at his girl wrong. I don't know. Come up, smack that thing. A mammoth freaking bullfrog. So there was the snake I caught on it, then frog on frog violence, and more bass than I could absolutely begin to tell you that I've caught on a freaking horny toad. Anything else?
I think that's it. my shoes are...
So if I ever end up getting bit by a poisonous snake, call the authorities because we know whose fault it is. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. I guess that wraps it up for episode 2 of What's in the Bag. The good old Zoom Horney Toad. And, this little wacky rig hook, not a bad idea. Little nose hook there. You kind of see how far in if I can get it there. About how far in I got it there. Just come up through the bottom, up out the top. Anyway, thanks for a perfect little bait there. But I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys like this episode. And maybe this is a little theme we can keep going of what's in the bag. So this episode, Zoom Horney Toad. Well, guys, thank you. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you out in the water. Until then, though, get out there, fish some for me. Keep it wet.